Fast forward to February 1970, and the British automotive industry is about to launch a car that would become one of the most unlikely success stories of the decade. While American muscle cars dominated the headlines with their roaring V8 engines, and Italian sports cars won hearts with their exotic styling, a modest sedan from Coventry was quietly preparing to sell nearly 800,000 units over its 11 years of production. The Hillman Avenger, a name that promised excitement but delivered something perhaps more valuable, a reliable and affordable car for hundreds of thousands of families in Britain and elsewhere. But here's what makes this story truly fascinating. The Avenger wasn't just another hastily revamped British sedan, assembled from existing components. This was Chrysler's first completely new project for the European market, designed from the ground up to compete directly with the Ford Cortina and challenge the growing influx of continental imports flooding Britain. It represented a pivotal moment when American corporate thinking collided with British engineering traditions, and the result was surprisingly successful, at least initially. The late 1960s were an extraordinary time for Britain. Harold Wilson's Labour government was facing economic turmoil, the Beatles were still recording together at Abbey Road, and the British automotive industry was undergoing seismic changes that would reshape it forever. The formation of British Leyland in 1968 created a huge conglomerate controlling dozens of brands, while Chrysler tightened its grip on the Rootes Group, having taken control in mid-1964. In this turbulent landscape, the Avenger emerged, launched in February 1970 with genuine optimism and substantial American investment behind it. What followed is a story of unexpected commercial triumph, remarkable motoring success, corporate upheaval, and eventual decline that mirrors the fate of the entire British automotive industry during that tumultuous decade. The Avenger sold very well when it was launched, competed successfully in rallies, and found export markets worldwide, yet today it is virtually forgotten, with fewer than 260 units registered in Great Britain in 2015, out of nearly 800,000 produced in that country. Let's examine why this forgotten bestseller deserves recognition and why it has so completely disappeared from our collective memory. Topic 1. The American Connection and Development Origins. The origins of the Avenger reveal a fascinating cultural collision between Detroit corporate thinking and British automotive tradition. According to former Rootes Group styling director Roy Axe, the first formal ideas for what would become the Avenger were recorded for evaluation in January 1963. The initial concept was to produce a replacement for the Hillman Minx, which at the time was Rootes' best-selling car. However, the Arrow project, which would become the Hillman Hunter in 1966, was already consuming most of the company's development resources. In 1967, Chrysler completed its acquisition of the Rootes Group, and the American giant immediately recognized that Rootes desperately needed a modern and competitive family car. What emerged was genuinely revolutionary for Rootes, a car designed from scratch, without reused components from previous models. Roy Axe received his styling brief in 1965, and engineering work began in earnest in 1966. At that time, Chrysler executives regularly flew to Coventry, and American money was pouring in, rapidly transforming the mindset of everyone working there. The project emphasized creating a compact, intelligent, spacious, and fast vehicle, with a deliberate Americanism influence, reflecting Detroit's styling philosophy. Roy Axe, who had joined Rootes in 1959 and become design director in 1965 at the remarkably young age of 29, led the styling team at Whitley in Coventry, working under stringent constraints. Chrysler wanted a conventional and practical design that could be efficiently manufactured in multiple factories and adapted for diverse markets around the world. The Avenger became one of the first automobiles to use computer-aided design in the engineering of its unibody construction, state-of-the-art technology for 1966. It was also one of the first cars designed specifically to meet increasing safety requirements, featuring a rigid passenger compartment with a front crumple zone, reinforced windshield glass, and an instrument panel with reinforced padding. The engineering philosophy was equally pragmatic and innovative. Chrysler specified a front-engine, rear-wheel drive layout with McPherson strut front suspension and a rigid rear axle with coil springs. Note, coil springs, not the cheaper leaf springs used by many competitors. The body used monocoque construction with considerable attention to rigidity. The initial engine options were completely new designs: a 1,248 cubic inch 1,248 cc four-cylinder overhead valve engine producing about 50 horsepower, and a 1,498 cubic inch 1,498 cc version producing approximately 70 horsepower. The camshaft was located much higher than in competitors' overhead valve engines, meaning the valve actuation rods were as short as possible, essentially the closest one could get to an overhead camshaft engine without actually building one. A remarkable, often overlooked innovation, the Avenger featured a plastic front grille, a novelty in Great Britain. At 1.37 meters wide, it was considered the largest mass-produced plastic component used at the time by any European car manufacturer. The car was also designed for remarkable ease of maintenance. A mechanic could reach the oil drain plug while standing next to the engine compartment, a seemingly small detail that demonstrated careful engineering in every aspect. Topic 2. Launch, specification, and market reception. When the Avenger debuted in February 1970, Britain's motoring press greeted it with genuine enthusiasm. The car offered 3 initial trim levels, each carefully positioned to appeal to different buyers. The entry-level Deluxe provided basic transport with minimal frills. The Super was better equipped, featuring carpets, armrests, twin horns, and reversing lights, though the dashboard design was carried over from the Deluxe. The top specification Good Luck model was where things got interesting. 4 round headlights, a significant improvement over the rectangular units from the Hillman Minx used on lower models' internal bonnet release, 2-speed wipers, brushed nylon seat trim previously never used on British cars, reclining front seats, and a round dial dashboard with comprehensive instrumentation. Pricing was deliberately aggressive to challenge Ford's dominance. Contemporary sources cite the 1970 base model, priced around £870, making it competitive with rivals while offering more standard equipment. The Good Luck model, fully equipped, represented excellent value in the increasingly important company car market. 5-door estate variants appeared in March 1972 in Deluxe and Super forms, available with either the 1,248 or 1,498 cubic centimeter engines. These estates proved particularly popular with small businesses and rural buyers, though they commanded premium pricing due to their additional practicality. Performance figures were unremarkable, but perfectly adequate for family motoring in that era. Contemporary road tests recorded the 1,498 cubic centimeter model achieving 0 to 60 miles per hour in approximately 16 seconds, with a top speed around 90 miles per hour. Fuel consumption averaged around 28 miles per gallon, respectable performance that mattered increasingly as petrol prices began rising through the early 70s. The market reception exceeded Chrysler's expectations. The Avenger became a steady presence in Britain's top 10 bestsellers list during its first few years on sale. By October 1970, over 50,000 Avengers had already been manufactured, impressive numbers demonstrating genuine market acceptance. The car competed directly with the Ford Escort and Vauxhall Viva, and while it never achieved the Cortina's dominance or the Escort's ubiquity, it carved out a respectable position in a fiercely competitive market. The Avenger's boot capacity reported as 12.2 cubic feet, though some sources cite 14 cubic feet, exceeded the Ford Cortina's, making it genuinely practical for family holidays. Chair height seating provided comfortable accommodation for 5 adults. Pivoting front vent windows, aided ventilation, and rear windows rolled down completely small details that enhanced everyday usability. Flow-through ventilation with rear pillar extractors was another thoughtful touch rarely found on budget family saloons of that era. Topic 3. The Rally Tiger Performance Variant and Competition Success. In October 1970, just a few months after its launch, Hillman added the Avenger GT to the lineup, featuring a 1,498 cubic centimeter engine with a dual carburetor and a 4-speed manual or 3-speed automatic transmission. The GT featured door stripes that gave it a touch of speed and distinctive trash can lid-shaped hubcaps, similar to those on Datsuns and Toyotas of the time. But Chrysler had bigger ambitions in mind. In March 1972, things got serious. Chrysler launched the Avenger Tiger, developed by Des O'Dell's team at the Chrysler Competition Center. Deliberately named to evoke memories of the fabulous Sunbeam Tiger of the previous decade, this was not just a trim package, it was a genuine performance car, specifically designed to generate interest in Chrysler's motorsports program and to homologate parts for Group 1 rally competition. The Tiger Mark I was based on the 4-door Avenger superbody, but mechanically modified. The 1,498 cubic centimeter engine received a modified cylinder head with larger valves, 3.9 centimeters intake, and 3.4 centimeters exhaust, with enlarged ducts and valve throats. The cylinder head face was machined to achieve a compression ratio of 9.4 to 1. Two Weber 40, DCOE Type 70 and 71 carburetors fed the engine through a special combined intake-exhaust manifold, along with a 4.4 centimeters free-flowing exhaust system. The result? 107 gross horsepower, 92.5 DIN horsepower at 6,100 revolutions per minute, with 122 Newton of torque at 4,200 revolutions per minute. Suspension improvements included Armstrong heavy-duty export shocks, up front with 450 N-aim front springs, lowered by 2.5 centimeters. At the rear, Armstrong adjustable shocks with 7 settings and 240 pound-per-inch springs completed the modifications. The gearbox and rear axle with a final drive ratio of 3.8 to 1 came from the Avenger GT, equipped with a specially balanced drive shaft. The brakes were GT specification with the addition of a Girling Mark IIB remote servo mounted on the passenger side bulkhead. Externally, the Tiger Mark I was unmistakable. Almost all examples were finished in Sundance yellow, although Chrysler called it yellow. Enthusiasts note that it looked more orange with a matte black bonnet, black rear panel, and bold side stripes with the inscription Avenger Tiger on the rear panels. Side bumpers and 4 Lucas fog lights and auxiliary lights at the front completed the aggressive look. But public interest was so great that a second batch of 100 was quickly produced. Mark I production numbers are vague estimates suggest that around 200 were assembled by Chrysler's Competition Center. In October 1972, Chrysler introduced the more production-ready Tiger Mark II. Based on the Avenger Good Luck body, with 4 round headlights, and the GT dashboard with full instrumentation, it was mechanically identical to previous cars but featured visual changes. The bonnet bulge disappeared, replaced by a completely matte black bonnet, that essential accessory of 1970s fashion. Exacton alloy wheels replaced the expensive Minilite magnesium wheels, and the excellent restall seats became optional instead of standard. A second color, Wardance Red, joined Sundance Yellow, both with the same striking side stripes. These Mark II cars were put on sale for £1,350. Expensive, but offering genuine performance. Production totaled approximately 400 units, bringing the total Tiger production to somewhere between 600 and 700 cars. The exact number remains lost in Ruti's history. The performance was impressive for its time. Contemporary road tests recorded it going from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 8 seconds, a 9/100th of a second, and a top speed of 18 miles per hour, genuinely faster than its rival, the Ford Escort Mexico. Success in competitions followed. The Avenger won the 1,971 Press-On Regardless rally under the Plymouth Cricket insignia, won the British Group 1 Rally Championship in 1975 and 1,976 inches, Northern Ireland, won the British Touring Car Championship several times, and won the New Zealand Heatway Rally in 1976. Scottish driver Ian Gemmell successfully competed with the Tiger in the 1975 British Rally Championship, finishing 8th overall in the Circuit of Ireland, 1st in the 1600 Group 1 class, and 2nd overall in Group 1, brilliant results that demonstrated the Avenger's genuine competitive capability. The Tiger also played an unexpected role in launching a driver's career. In September 1985, a young Colin McRae, who was just starting out in rallying, borrowed David Burden's ex-official Avenger for the Kames Rally. Although the gearbox was broken, McRae installed a replacement himself and competed in what would be his first appearance in a properly prepared rally car. That Avenger still exists today, a testament to the car's remarkable durability. Today, with only about 40 known original Tigers out of 600 to 700 built, they have become one of the holy grails of Ruti's owners' property. The values reflect this rarity. While ordinary Avengers trade for £3,000 to £5,000, exceptional Tigers can fetch £23,000 to £26,000 at auction. A 1,972 Tiger sold at auction in April 2024 reached £14,850. Topic 4. The Chrysler rebadging and corporate turmoil. By September 1976, corporate changes were dramatically reshaping the Avenger's identity. Chrysler dropped the Hillman name entirely, rebranding the car simply as the Chrysler Avenger. This reflected the American parent company's desire to consolidate its European operations under a single Chrysler brand, a strategy that would prove disastrously short-lived. The rebadging coincided with a comprehensive facelift. The distinctive hockey stick rear lamp clusters, perhaps the Avenger's most recognizable feature, disappeared, replaced by a straight, light bar arrangement. The former hockey stick profile areas were filled with body-colored metal, while the fuel cap relocated from the rear to the right-hand side. Up front, new frontal treatment resembled the Chrysler Alpine, as did the completely redesigned dashboard. Both changes aimed to create visual unity across Chrysler's European range. 3 trim levels remained available: LS, good luck known as Super in certain markets, and GLS, the latter, available only with a high-compression 1,598 cubic centimeter engine. The engineering underneath remained unchanged, but the new corporate identity reflected Chrysler's struggles to establish European brand cohesion while hemorrhaging money at catastrophic rates. Production logistics also changed significantly. From the beginning in 1970, the Avenger's bodyshell components had been manufactured at Linwood in Scotland, then transported south to Ryton in Coventry on component trains that returned north carrying materials for Hillman Imp production. Following the Imp's discontinuation in 1976, final Avenger assembly moved entirely to Linwood, while Ryton switched to producing the Simca-based Chrysler Alpine and later the Talbot Solara. The Hunter, which had been built at Linwood since 1969, moved to Ireland. These production rationalizations made logistical sense but reflected Chrysler Europe's desperate financial situation. By 1977, Chrysler's European losses had reached unsustainable levels. The company struggled with overcapacity, inefficient production plagued by industrial strife, and intense competition from more efficient continental manufacturers. Quality control problems persisted, body corrosion became notorious, and the Avenger's simple suspension, while cheap to manufacture, couldn't match the sophistication of newer front-wheel drive competitors emerging from Ford, Vauxhall, and Continental manufacturers. In 1978, Chrysler made the dramatic decision to sell its entire European automobile division to Peugeot for the nominal sum of $1, though Peugeot also assumed substantial debts and obligations. Overnight, the Chrysler Avenger became the Talbot Avenger, as Peugeot resurrected the historic British brand name for its newly acquired products. Topic 5. The Talbot years and production end. Under Talbot badging from 1979, the Avenger continued with minimal changes. Peugeot had no long-term commitment to the aging design they needed, it only to fill showrooms while developing replacements. Late-model Avengers received minor updates, revised trim levels, updated color schemes, and mechanical refinements, but the range simplified as slow-selling variants disappeared. By 1980, only a handful of models remained available, including basic saloons and the still popular estate variants. The Avenger increasingly faced a market transformed by the new generation of front-wheel drive hatchbacks. The Volkswagen Golf, Vauxhall Astra, and Fiat Ritmo represented modern thinking that made the rear-wheel drive Avenger seem distinctly old-fashioned, despite its fundamentally sound engineering. Final British production ended in 1981 when the Linwood factory closed, though the Avenger continued in various international markets for several more years. New Zealand assembly by Todd Motors had produced 26,500 examples locally, with an additional 2,000 imported fully built up. In Argentina, production continued remarkably until 1990 under Dodge and then Volkswagen badging, representing the Avenger's longest production run anywhere globally. Total production across all variants and markets reached impressive figures. By the time the last example rolled off the line in 1981, almost 790,000 Avengers had found buyers. More conservative estimates suggest approximately 638,000 units across all markets. But even the lower figure confirms the Avenger's genuine commercial success, particularly during its early 70s peak years. Topic 6. Legacy, current values, and historical significance. Today, the Hillman Avenger occupies a curious position in classic car consciousness. It lacks the glamour of Italian sports cars or American muscle machines. Most examples succumbed to British weather decades ago. That notorious corrosion problem ensured survival rates remained tragically low. While the Avenger was one of the most popular British cars of the 1970s, by 2016 reportedly fewer than 260 remained in use in Britain. From nearly 800,000 sold domestically, this represents a survival rate below 0.03%, truly shocking attrition. Yet interest grows steadily among enthusiasts. The Hillman Avenger Club, founded in 1979, maintains an active membership dedicated to preserving these increasingly rare machines. Current values remain remarkably modest compared to more fashionable classics. A good condition standard Avenger typically commands £3,000 to £5,000, while pristine GT examples might reach £8,000 to £12,000. Those rare tigers occupy different territory entirely. Exceptional examples with documented provenance can exceed £25,000, with the rarest early Mark I cars potentially commanding even more. What makes surviving Avengers appealing to today's enthusiasts? Primarily their refreshing simplicity and honesty. These cars embody an era when home mechanics could genuinely maintain and repair their vehicles using basic tools and straightforward mechanical knowledge. There's nothing complex or intimidating about Avenger mechanicals, just straightforward overhead valve engines, conventional suspension, simple electrical systems, and robust drivetrains that can be comprehended and repaired by ordinary owners. The Avenger also represents something increasingly precious in today's classic car market: genuinely affordable entry into classic motoring. While Jaguar E-Types command six-figure sums and Porsche 911s have priced out ordinary enthusiasts entirely, a decent Avenger remains accessible to average budgets. It offers authentic classic car experience, the sounds, smells, sensations, and character of 1970s motoring, without requiring remortgaging your house. For those who remember them new, Avengers evoke powerful nostalgia. These were the cars driven by fathers and uncles, the vehicles seen everywhere throughout 70s childhoods, the dependable transport that moved millions of families around Britain for over a decade. That emotional connection drives much current enthusiast interest, as does the appealing underdog character of championing something overlooked by mainstream classic car culture. So, what is the shocking truth behind Britain's forgotten bestseller? Perhaps it is this profoundly simple reality. The Hillman Avenger was brilliantly successful, at exactly what it was designed to do. It provided reliable, affordable, and practical transportation for hundreds of thousands of families. It sold out rallies against more famous competitors. It sold in truly impressive numbers across multiple continents. It remained in production for 11 years, under 3 different brand identities. By any conventional business measure, the Avenger achieved what Chrysler originally hoped for when it invested millions in its development. The Avenger was competent, sensible, practical, and ultimately ordinary. In an industry that celebrates excess, innovation, and dramatic stories, ordinariness rarely wins lasting recognition or affection. But perhaps that is precisely why the Avenger deserves to be remembered and celebrated. It represents an entire class of vehicles that once dominated British roads, honest, unpretentious cars built for ordinary people, with ordinary lives, ordinary jobs, families, and everyday activities. The Avenger also serves as a sobering reminder of how quickly commercial success can turn into historical obscurity. Nearly 800,000 units sold over 11 years of production didn't prevent the car from virtually fading from memory in a single generation. Compare survival rates with contemporary rivals. Far more Ford Escorts and Vauxhall Vivas survive today, despite similar production volumes and identical vulnerabilities to corrosion. The Avenger somehow slipped through the cracks of classic car culture, fondly remembered by those who owned one, but largely ignored by collectors and restorers until very recently. Perhaps most significantly, the Avenger's story perfectly encapsulates the decline of the British automotive industry during the turbulent 1970s. Here was a genuinely good car, well-designed, sensibly styled, competitively priced, and commercially successful, but it couldn't prevent the collapse of the company that manufactured it. Roots became Chrysler, which became Talbot, and then nothing, despite producing vehicles that people actually wanted to buy. Did you experience the Avenger era firsthand? Perhaps you owned one, or someone in your family did. Maybe you remember these cars being absolutely everywhere before simply disappearing from British roads. Do you remember the distinctive hockey stick-shaped headlights, or the determined roar of a tiger at full throttle? Share your Avenger memories in the comments below. These personal stories and individual experiences matter far more than any spec sheet, production number, or historical analysis. It's the human stories that give meaning to automotive history. If you enjoyed this in-depth exploration of forgotten automotive history, please subscribe to the channel and click the like button. There are countless forgotten stories waiting to be told, and your support helps us continue to uncover them and bring them back to light where they belong. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the most interesting and meaningful automotive stories aren't about the fastest cars, the most glamorous machines, or the biggest success stories, but about the ordinary vehicles that truly moved the world and the real people who depended on them every day.